Darklight Energetics channel is a project to explore the vast variety of topics about spirituality, psychology, and social topics as well. If you wish to support this effort, consider becoming a sponsor on Patreon or make a one-time contribution through PayPal. Your support will help us improve the quality, length, and number of topics covered in our videos. Do check out the links in the description below. And to become our channel sponsors, email us at info.darklightenergetics@gmail.com. Do like, subscribe, and share. Thank you so much and enjoy the video.
So hi everyone, my name is Mary and today I'm with Jeet and we're going to be discussing marriage and the child-free lifestyle. Yeah, it's a lot to swallow. We're going to be going into some very specific things about these two. First of all, with marriage, is it necessary? We're going to discuss that. Is it necessary? Why has it failed as an institution? We're going to cover that. And we're going to cover toxic marriages. What makes them toxic? Yeah. And when this happens, what is the solution? And we're going to also talk about soulmate myths along with this.
that is the most discussed topic, right? About the soulmate and twin flames in all these spiritual circles, most of it.
And then we're gonna seg over into the child-free lifestyle, since this ties in with marriage. It can tie in with marriage. We're going to talk about female perspectives versus male. We're going to talk about some other things to do with it too, some surprise topics that are going to come up.
I love surprises.
Me too, most of the time.
Yeah, ladies first. Mary, carry on.
Sure. Okay. So first of all, what is marriage as an institution, and is it required or not?
So do you want to share your perspective on this?
Sure. Well, speaking from experience, I can say I do not believe it's required. I have been married, done that, got the t-shirt. Don't really need to do it again.
And don't forget the gifts.
However, the person I'm with now kind of changed my mind on all of that, so we'll see.
That's great.
But no, it's not required. It's created by humans, first of all. And
absolutely.
So we definitely don't need it to live.
It's so funny, everything in our society, if you look at it, it's created in such a way that we give it an association with gods, like it's like written in some system of gods and it's so divine. But spiritually speaking, marriage as an institution, it's not necessary, to be very honest with you. If you look at the actual okay, let me put it like this. So I can show you this in two ways. One is the Sanatan Dharma, what we call as the ancient Dharma. Like there was no religion that time, right? The Sanatan Dharma is the ancient one, or you can call it in the times of Lemurians and the times where Lemuria was there. You know what I mean? And Atlantis, or even before that, Lemurians were before Atlantis. So before the Martians came in and invaded Earth, when everybody was in synchronicity with each other, I believe there was no such thing as a marriage, as in like how we know it right now. All right, because I'll tell you why. The main reason is because everybody was liberated. Everybody was in sync. First of all, there was no such thing as my or me and my things. It was all connected. It was all interconnected, right? Now, when we speak about marriages that we have right now, why there was a need for that? Because as a society depleted in terms of consciousness, right? It deteriorated in terms of consciousness. So then there were divisions, then there were nations, then there were countries, then there were borders, then there were races, right? Then there were color of the skin, then there were genders, right? I mean, so many things. I mean, I feel we as a generation are lucky right now. At least we are able to express a lot of things openly. I mean, just think about it. If you can discuss this in terms of colonization, I mean, they would have surely banned us as a witch and maybe hang us
Oh
up
yeah,
somewhere.
I would
For
have been
sure.
burned at the stake. Like,
Oh yes. So the religion and all the other things, took over, and the institution was created, so that people can have satisfied life, you know. But if you ask me spiritually, all right. So spiritually, this here's the thing. So there is first of all, every person is they has to first of all required to know who that person is, the reality of. I'm not talking about hallucinatory self. I mean, I know many people, they say this is how I am. No, that's not that's not who you really are, because they
yeah,
associate with a lot of images and persona and personalities and stuff like that, and then they assume that they are that. But I'm talking about real essence, like real experience. So first of all, the person should know that, and then what happens is, gradually, he or she, when they meditate or do stuff like that, they will have the awareness, they will get the download for their spiritual connections. Now look, we all are interconnected, that's for sure, but every person has akashic, certain terms and contracts, if you may will, as per the akashic records. Okay. Now there are things which are beyond akashic records also. Akashic records is nothing but, you can call records from astral plane, you know but there
right.
are things which are beyond akashic record, beyond astral plane, and beyond different planets, or dimensions rather, right? So these connections, and contracts, you can say that it's made from that. Now based on that, if you connect with somebody, you just feel. You don't need to be you don't need to possess them. You will not even feel that you want to possess that particular person. you know that is where you discover true love rather. So, and that is what people often confuse as soulmates on twin flames. I'll come to that later on as we proceed further, because we have that topic, right? But ideally speaking, marriage is something which is very spiritual in nature, you see. So you keep five element. Now if you look at Mayans, for example, or if you look at the traditional people from Peru or Brazil or Mexico, in Mexico, or even in India, or China, for example, all of those people, they used to involve five elements of earth when they used to do this type of ritual of marriage. Because marriage is not necessarily just about physical copulation, right? It's more
Yeah.
about, it's beyond that. Unfortunately, we have deteriorated so much in consciousness that in many cultures now it's just like a license to have sex. It's become like
Pretty
that,
much.
right?
Yeah.
It's like, and not just marriage, even the thing called love. The moment we say love, it's like, oh, I want to make love. How can you make love? It's not, you can't make things happen.
Yes, that expression.
How can you make it? It's like, oh, you know what? I am the manufacturer. you know, it's so funny. I always laugh at that, but I'm like, okay, it's as in English or as in language, it's a verbiage that we use that. But other than that, so marriage, if you ask me, there is soul binding, right? Once you understand the connection of spiritual connections, like the soul connections, earlier in the Sanatan Dharma, or in the earlier ages, the way they used to conduct marriages was, the female would choose intuitively their spouse, or they used to give a lot of preferences to females. Obviously they used to treat them as goddesses. I mean, even if you look at in the culture of Egypt, for example, right, the goddess Isis, for example, and there are
Oh
many other
yeah.
goddesses over there. I mean, you look at Rome, for example. I'm not the Rome right now, the original Rome, right? So
The
if
room
you
right now is a bit of a mess.
yeah, so if you look at the gods and goddesses and that particular culture, right, they used to give so much importance to females, not because it's about some gender superiority or inferiority complex. No, it's just that it's the source. right? I mean, females, of course, females are the source from which
Yeah.
everything comes up. So, but then again, the things change because everyone became self-centered, and then everyone became a little egoistic. Then there is this gender race, who is more superior than the male-dominated females, and now females are like, okay, you know what? I don't give a. It's all those things, right? But traditionally speaking, it was more like connecting with soul. And this is not just the connection we are talking in terms of, okay, you feel some infatuation or physical attraction, not like that. This is like real spiritual connection. Now what happens is, if you are not on track with that, right, uh, you will definitely suffer in life. So it's not just about marriage, it's about any spiritual contract that you have. It could be any spiritual contract. And if you don't do that, if you don't follow that, and if you're not on track, then definitely, you'll suffer. So
Absolutely.
that is the adverse effect of it, you can say. But now, how will everybody or anybody will come to know about the contracts, right? So
Yeah.
that is where one person has to really go deep within, uh, and you'll just feel like, sometimes it happens, Barry, that you just feel a connection for the person, not necessarily love, or I mean, it is love, but it's not necessarily like a spousal relationship, but you may also feel like brotherly or sisterly love, or you may feel like friendly love, right? Or you feel
Yes,
like,
and on that note, yeah, on that note, I noticed all of my significant connections in recent years, all of them start out with a sexual attraction, but it immediately becomes clear to me whether or
yeah,
not I should act on that or not. Like,
yeah,
but all of them, whether it's business, friend, whatever, it always starts out that way. Like, always, always. Like,
yeah, that's because that's what I was saying. Like, in recent time, in today's time, even the so-called marriages, when they get married, it's mostly on surface level. I mean, if you come and
yeah,
look at country like India, for example, the way marriages happen, like the so-called traditional arranged marriages that we have here, you will see, the demand that people put up is like, the girl should be fair, she should be doing this, or the guy should be like this, he should be tall, he should be earning that much. I mean, are you marrying or doing a business deal? It's
yeah,
more like a business deal. And then, end of the day, it all boils down to sex. It's just like, okay, you know what, and after a couple of months of the honeymoon period, they'll be like, oh, now you're changed, you changed a lot. I'm like, right. I mean, when I listen to this type of stories, I'm like, okay, this was just the attraction, right? So it's more on a surface level. But when we speak about spiritual connection, it's beyond. I mean, sex is just 1% into that. To be honest, it's beyond your physical body. It's beyond because it's a spiritual connection, right? But here's the catch. There is a catch in this. We have to use the physical body to express the love, you see. So, but when you are expressing, it's more on a spiritual realm rather than on a physical realm, rather than, it's not just about the physical body parts. It's not about, you know
absolutely. And I
it's
know of
not about.
successful couples
Yeah,
that actually took a break from sex to work on their friendship, and
yeah,
it works for a lot for that reason. Like,
yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Because see, somewhere down the line, everybody is looking and seeking for that type of bonding. Now, what has happened? Nobody has taught them that you have to go spiritual, in spiritual way, right? I mean, very rarely. It's hardly 1 or 2% of people in around the world knows that this is how it is supposed to be, and nobody talks about it because, you know, okay, it's an institution. It's been on since eons. So let's just continue with what we are. We are happy with that. Okay, and we all are very happily, we put on the mask of being happily married, right? But but then the problem is that there is no spiritual connection. That's why they say that you have lost the charm in the marriage. There is no such thing as charm in the marriage. I mean, it's not a commodity, right?
yeah.
There'll be a charm.
I should hope not. I can't trade it on TD Ameritrade.
Yeah. So indeed. So it's so funny. So the way people say, it's like, I sometimes feel that it's like, It's like, how as a child, as a kid, we used to play with dolls, like it's like more like that, some kind of marriage of maybe GI Joe and Barbie doll. it's more,
Yeah.
it's more like that, right? But it's so funny. So when we speak about spiritual marriages, as we were discussing, so there was no compulsion. You see, there was no compulsion, and it was never about monogamy. Okay, it was never about monogamy, because when you are in when you discover love, the true love I'm talking about, not the physical surface level love, or the love which is about self, the love which is about possessiveness, not that type of love. I'm talking about the true love when you discover, when your heart flowers, when you're functioning from your heart chakra, right? That type of love, you cannot limit it, right? So that's the other thing which I wanted to discuss with you on this particular topic, is about being committed. you know so if I ask you, Mary, like, if somebody tells you, okay, you know what, Mary, I want to be in relationship with you, but will you be committed? What is your expression on that?
Well, I mean, I think a lot of commitments are kind of one way at first. That's
Yeah,
what I think. Like in
yeah.
general, that's not how I do mine, but in general, I do see that.
Hmm.
I see that across the board with people that I've known, and even people much older than I am, like my parents' generation, Gen X and beyond. Like,
Yeah.
but that's a different story. I think previous generations really like they focused on the religious and they focused on the security blanket aspect of marriage. They
Right.
didn't really get into the spiritual. Some
Right.
people found it, along the way, but I'm not seeing that. No.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, it was more. You're right. It was more on a religious thing rather than a spiritual thing. And when we speak about commitment, or loyalty, in that sense, is more about, okay, I will not cheat on you. Basically, I will. Basically, it says that, I will not fantasize, or I will not even look into other females, or other males, or whatever. Uh, but my question is that true love?
No, it's also unrealistic because as long as humans have eyes will wander. And that's it doesn't mean a
Well, yeah,
person is cheating, it means they're a human with eyes.
unless you are functioning from the third eye. Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But
exactly.
no, that is not enough for a commitment. There's so much more. There's the
Yes,
support when people are falling apart
yes.
emotionally. There's just so much more. And even I'm just discovering some of this because my first relationships were very unhealthy. And it's
Mhm.
the first time I'm in something that is healthy completely. So I'm learning as I go. But I know what commitment is not. I can say that. It's not
Yeah,
using the other person in any way.
right,
Like
right.
it's not draining their energy and leaving
Ah,
nothing in return. Like it's not
speak,
that.
speaking of draining the energy, it reminds me of narcissism in relationships, especially in, narcissist, spouses who are narcissist
Mm-hmm.
in nature. But I'll come to that. Before that, let me just finish what I was talking about. So commitment is often, people say that, oh my God, he cheated on her, or she cheated on him, by having extramarital affair, and by that means they are not committed, according to them, for most of them, right? But I believe that if you really love a person, so just, if you have to define true love in one sentence, it's like, letting go of possessiveness is true love. You see, so so if you really love a person, and if that person is happy with somebody else, what's the problem? If you really think about it,
Yeah.
like in earlier ages, there was no such thing as monogamy. There was everybody was
Yeah.
free. Everybody was free. So you meet a person, you feel a connect, you spend time with them, right? You spend some quality time. It must See, when we say about quality time, it doesn't mean that it it ends up in bed all the time, right? It's just the time.
Yeah.
It's actual quality time with a person, and maybe you may have some physical connection also. It doesn't matter, actually. You know, if The only condition is that it has to be a spiritual connect. If it is not, then what happens is, like say for example, in today's time, when people speak about casual sex, for example, it's very leniently taken, and it's like, okay, so what's the big deal about it? Well, there is a big deal. Our physical body has the memory. Okay, so our genes and the genomes have memory. Okay, so there is a Sanskrit term in this. A Sanskrit term is called as runanu bandhan. Runan bandhan. Bandhan means bondage, and runan means it's more like a kind of what do you call, a DNA database of connections. Okay, and it's more like a database where all your actions are registered. All your actions, even if you think that nobody's looking at me and let me just think whatever and do whatever, even then those things are registered in your physical body and your other bodies, you see. So when you are having physical relationship with someone else, like what we say about casual sex, for example, it's just on a surface level. So when it is on surface level, there is a lot of exchange that happens, right? In terms of energies, in terms of chakra, in terms of kundalini, lot of energies are exchanged, and that's where people get it gets screwed up.
Yeah.
And that's actually one of the reasons why most of the marriages fail, because most of the marriages, they are not based on spiritual connection. They are just they just did it because they had to do it, maybe by peer pressure, or maybe they were they just thought that, okay, you know what, this is a nice settlement, some kind of nice house, this guy is earning great, and he's well settled, or the girl is hot, or whatever, and then they just get married and copulate and then produce narcissist babies.
Yeah, and the cycle continues.
Cycle continues, my friend. From eons to eons, right?
But I really like how you touched on the soul tie, what we would call it a soul tie. It's the same thing, really. The more partners a person has casually, really, the more their energy is clinging to you. And then you carry that into your other relationships. Many people have talked on this. Many experts have talked on this.
Yeah.
But really, I have experienced it. I knew when one of my partners stepped outside the relationship, because I could literally feel a different energy on her. And I knew who the energy was, like instantly. So if that doesn't tell you something, I mean, this stuff is real. It's real. And I'm not out here slut shaming anybody, but the more partners you have, the more of that stuff you got to clear away.
Yes.
And these people are bringing that into marriages. And I'm sure that that's a lot of what disrupts a marriage.
Absolutely. I mean, it's not just about the other partners. Let us say there is just a couple got married, and let's say that they were virgin till the time they got married, for example. All right, and they just got married. Now there is no soul connection. There is just a dry connection kind of a thing, because just because they got married, so then now what will happen is they will try to love each other rather than actually loving each other. So they will love the characteristics, they will love the nature. So the guy will be like, okay, she's so beautiful, she cooks well, all those things, like personality traits. And the same thing with the girl. The girl will be like, okay, he takes care about me, he is so understanding, blah 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 blah, whatever. And after some time, the person changes, personality changes, and woof, I cannot adjust anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the sad part. So, but then the thing is that even in that type of case, there is this the exchange that happens, like you correctly said, the energetic exchange, which screws up. And human beings, we should not forget this, human beings are beings which are more based on senses. We all function from senses, right? Everything, right from the thoughts, from our perceptions, from our beliefs, or whatever, it's all based on the senses. The way you eat the food, the way you think, the way you see, everything, right? It's all five senses. And so when we have multiple partners, or when we have this type of connection where it's not properly connected in terms of spiritual essence, then the senses get confused. This is proved by neurobiology. Yeah. So when we say confused, what happens is you may get nervous breakdown, you may get fatigue, or you may get that type of sensation like cold sweats all of a sudden. Those type of things. You don't know why you are not functioning properly. You just know you are out of sync, for
Yes.
no reason, and that's what happens. So yeah. So coming back to your question, marriage, is it necessary? No, not at all. What is necessary in this world right now is spiritual connection, I believe. I personally believe that what is really required is spiritual connection. And for that, first, people should understand what is spiritual connection at first place, right?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, people think when we speak about spirituality, people think that it's religious, which is not in nature, right? So
Yeah. It's
that's
definitely
something where we have
not.
to bring a lot of clarity on. Yeah.